As a next part to this, what we actually want to do, I've put together a little document with a whole heap of different animals standing in different locations. I just need to actually find it. It's on this one here. And what we've got is a little X that we're going to do to mark the spot. So you got proper view of this, don't you, Liam? You can see.
Yes, I can see your screen. Yep.
Cool. We're going to do nice and small X because really that's how big an arrow shot's going to be. Something nice and small like that. So first one we've got is a few different goats. I'm going to Command C and V that a few times. There we go. So we've got a few different ones that we're working on. So we've got 4 different goats taking a drink of water. Let's work on this white little one here. So if you think about your bone positioning, comes up, across, and then ducks back, essentially, is the way that front leg is going to work. Can you see my arrow?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, cool. And so as a shot for this guy in particular, you think about he's covering his vitals pretty darn well in that position.
Yeah.
Right?
So for majority of bowhunters, especially if you're new to it.
Actually, let's put a pause. Yeah, this is a good point. So as a precursor, we're going to talk about shots. We're not necessarily saying these are the best shots to always take. We're saying this would be a kill shot potentially in this situation, but really you're always best, especially as a starting bow hunter, to wait for your broadside shot. Like that's going to be the ideal position. We've got a few of those that we're going to talk about as we go through this. But I think realistically, like this is like, okay, yes, this would be a shot that potentially would work. And as you get more direct with your shooting, then yes, this would be a great shot for you to potentially take. We're not going to say, like, I'm going to say, let's put a shot on every single animal, even though some of these photos are probably shots that we wouldn't actually take in the wild. I think that's really good to preference. And also I'm going to say that none of these photos are mine. I've just got them straight from Google. So yeah.
Yep. So all these shots and stuff, I'll kind of explain like
definitely
relative on your experience, your confidence, and your setup. What pens you're shooting,
definitely
what broadheads you're using. That will really dictate a lot on sort of penetration and change the outcome of situations where you could potentially hit bone or you do hit bone. So most shots, like the rib cage, pretty well covers around the majority of houses the chest cavity. So all shots you will definitely have, even a clean broadside shot, you pretty well have a really high chance of hitting rib.
Bone. Yeah,
but rib bones, they are thinner. Most relatively heavy pounds with a decent solid broadhead will crack, break, cut through, and make it through that rib cage. The main bone structure you do need to worry about is the scapula, and that bone structure that Matty kind of just outlined, whereas the front leg comes up to the elbow, and then they have that bone that comes forward to the point of their shoulder, and then that connects to the scapula, which runs back sort of as a triangle up across them there. So
like this. So this is actually the outline of your deer right here.
Yes.
So literally you've got it that sits forward and then punches back. And you kind of got that is the shoulder in general. But yeah, if you look at how far back the scap sits, what's that? There's like really 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth rib back, and you're still covering it with the scap.
Yeah. So
in that 5th and 6th rib.
I do believe that is a fairly accurate diagram there, but yes, that scapula on different size animals will be slightly different. And if you think about like the size of a fox, they sort of have a long, skinnier body compared to, say, a red deer or something like we're looking at here. I do believe that scapula would be slightly bigger and come back slightly more.
I was going to say, and probably wouldn't sit up as high, right?
Wouldn't sit down here. It would sit down a bit lower. And the point of his elbow would kind of be back at that back of that shaded line. Down the bottom there, but it's still a pretty good representation, and you can kind of
the bones at least, definitely. So
the structure of the bones, and that kind of, you can, a lot of people like Brad Smith and all that, we always talk about the magic triangle, which basically is a triangle where the long side is sort of basically runs up the back of the leg, sort of on the crease, straight up to the top of the spine there, and then the 2 points of the triangle angle forward, as you can see there.
So really,
this would be a really good way.
But it's kind of
we'll be able to make it work.
Essentially like that.
If you turn that around,
be kind of in like that. We'll turn it again. More like that. There you go.
Yep. And then it'll come back a little bit further. But
Definitely.
yeah, that's essentially the magic triangle. Like a lot of people, when they're new to it and they don't know the structure of animals and stuff, they get worried about hitting them in that area
Hmm.
there because the
And
shoulder, like it looks dense, but it's all muscle. So
I
that
was going to
is,
say, yeah, when you look at that side on as an animal, let's look at this little guy. Like, really, you're talking about
you would
shooting
assume
here.
that's all bone.
But yeah, you look at that and you're like, yeah, that's all bone, right? But really, you're trying to put your shot in this sort of position. Like, you're actually, if you see where the elbow is, that triangle
Yep.
starts all the way in here, positions
Yep.
out to there, comes down to that elbow. It's kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
As a position.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's what most of us talk about as magic triangle. But I remember years ago when I was hunting with Brad Smith, when we actually cut open a borderite shot, and he explained it more as like a teardrop shape because the lungs sort of come up and back a lot further, and then you don't want to go too far back off that crease because you'll be getting behind the heart and sort of in the liver, kidney sort of area just in front of the gut. So
a bit more kind of like that, but not as big.
Yep. So if you flip that around the other way,
Oh, you want
do
it
a
to be the,
yep, a 180 on that. So the tip of the teardrop comes back. Yep, that's it.
okay, yep,
It's more, yeah, it's kind of like a teardrop, which so the base of that teardrop will encompass that magic triangle area, and then
definitely.
the lungs in the animals, they'll come up and back
You
at an
kind of
angle. So
up and out like
if
that.
you were to hit an animal halfway down the body, you would want it to be in the top half of that animal to hit the lungs up high, because below that
So kind
will
of like your
be
seventh, anything within that seventh rib, you want to be
yeah,
like
pretty
in
well.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the on broadside shot. That is the heart and lungs and the vitals where you
Golden
want to be
ticket. Yeah.
getting that shot into, which ultimately you're always aiming for that heart shot. There's a section where the lobes of the lung actually, because they sort of sit over each side of the heart, and the heart's in the center. They're
Hmm.
like kind of like umbrellas over the heart, and there's an area where the lobes of the lungs kind of sit down over, um, overlap the top of the heart, where all the major arteries in the aorta and all that come out of the top of the heart, and
Yeah.
it's what myself and a few of us refer to as a heart lung shot, which is the ultimate top of the heart.
You're
You're
gonna kill them.
hitting the lungs
Yeah.
as well, and you're basically putting that animal down in the two most effective ways, which is through major blood loss and
Yeah.
also collapsing the lungs, causing lack of oxygen to the brain. And essentially, both those reasons, the animal will essentially like black out, pass out, go to
Mm,
sleep type
yeah.
thing.
So
So then essentially not suffering as much as, say, a rifle shot where it's blunt force trauma, you're hitting spine
mhm.
or neck and you're putting them down. Like if that doesn't snap the brain stem or isn't a brain shot, they're not out instantly. They're essentially sort of paralyzed to begin with. But there's enough blunt force trauma of that bullet causing sort of mass internal hemorrhaging and
Yeah,
causing them to
wow.
die as well. So
Yeah. And so in regards to the lungs, like not looking at both lungs here, but just at the one, that's kind
yes,
of more so how your lung would sit, right? It doesn't sit as some people might think, like a straight beam like that.
yeah,
It's
nah, they're
more of an
more, yeah,
angled like position. And as you said, so say the blue was the heart, you've got one
yep,
flap kind of covering over that heart.
yep, yes, essentially. So yeah, you want to be top of the
Same,
heart.
but different. Yeah.
Yeah, hitting those major arteries leading out of the heart. And if you actually have a look at a heart, the bottom half of the heart is basically the bulk and the muscle that actually contracts in the beating of
Hmm.
that. So a low heart shot, you still will get a lot of blood and good blood trail, and it will still kill that animal very, very effectively and quick. Um, might have to put in
Oh,
realistic
what?
heart
No
into
way.
that.
Oh, did that just,
um,
oh my God, I thought I just lost that whole document. I was like, no.
but yeah, so the heart has hollow chambers where the blood, the deoxygenated blood sort of goes in, um, and then heads out to the lungs to
Hmm.
basically be reoxygenated, and then it goes from the lungs back into the heart and then gets pumped out into the body with that fresh blood. So if you're in that top half of that blood, you're hitting those major arteries and opening them up. So you'll get major blood loss from that. If you're low heart through the meat, you will, or nick the back of the heart, you will still put them down. It's still like a heart shot. It's a great shot, but it will take a little bit longer. They might go a little bit further because it's through more of the muscle, rather than taking off the top of the heart there.
Yeah. Bring forward. There you go. So kind of something like that.
Yeah, pretty
almost,
well.
but yeah. That will do for demonstration purposes, right?
A really good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So scrolling back up, then we'll start back at the top. Like I said, we've got a lot of different critters to kind of work with. So if you have a look, then realistically, your lungs are kind of going to be just sitting over the crest here. Your heart's going to be pretty much in this sort of position,
right behind the bone,
behind the bone, right in here, essentially.
So that right there, would be with the quartering on angle. That would be a heart. That would be in the top half of the heart. That's the top of the heart shot. But that is, you got a bone running directly across that. So most people, you want to avoid those major bone structures. So if I were to take a shot on that animal, it would be up slightly and then back just above the bone.
Like up about there-ish.
Yeah, just behind this. So you're missing that scapula. You're above that front bone, above the elbow, and you basically, your only option here is the double lung shot.
Definitely.
And when you're taking lung shots, you do want to hit both lungs, like quartering shots, quartering on, quartering away. You got to make sure that you have the angle right so that you're not missing a lung, because animals are tough. Even humans can actually live and function off one completely healthy functioning lung. So if you only hit that animal in one lung, yes, that lung will collapse and not be working, but they will. It's like I in the past have hit a boar, super tight quartering away shot, didn't hit him far enough back to have the exit hit the offside lung. So I only got that onside lung sort of down the side of him. And 3 months later, we found that same boar again. He'd lost a lot of condition. He went from being like a 100-kilo boar down to a 70-kilo boar.
Wow.
And I ended up getting the drop on him, and we cut him open, and his shoulder and stuff was just a mass of scar tissue, and he'd healed and was living, feeding, completely fine. And so animals can 100% live off one lung. The only issue they kind of run into with that is if all that blood damage and the vessels that you do hit cause like a blood clot or something, and you end up essentially dying from a stroke or a heart attack or something like that, which is very rare. So if you only hit one lung, 9 times out of 10, that animal probably will live. But you'll be doing well to find them.
Definitely. So given that these ones, in regards to this actual positioning, you have a look at where we've got these few different nannies. This nanny's horn is pretty much right in a position where we'd actually want to be taking a shot on this guy. And then this nanny's horn is actually kind of blocking the view as to where we would take a shot on that one.
Yep.
So realistically, in this situation of these shots, this nanny here would actually be the best one. If you were going just for meat shot, that would probably be the shot you'd actually want to take on any of these animals, right?
Yeah, I'd probably go the one that's slightly more quartering on. Like that 45-degree quartering on is really bad shot for bone structure. Like I wouldn't recommend anyone taking that shot. You're better off having them quartering more towards you so you can get in front of that point of the shoulder. And down through their body, essentially like through the front of their chest.
Definitely.
That would be, out of all those, that would be the shot that I would take on those.
That you'd pretty much just be trying to get above that nanny's horn as much as you could.
Pretty well. Just sort of through the neck, kind of shooting down on them because the head's down drinking, and it would exit sort of back behind the crease on the opposite side.
You'd go lower on that? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's pretty good height, if not slightly high, because it will exit lower. It'll enter higher on that animal's neck, and when that animal stands up, it will exit, down out behind his elbow on the opposite side there. Yeah,
cool. Awesome. We're going to keep it moving. So this is a good shot in regards to a Billy. He's got his front leg forward. Great position in regards to like a broadside shot, essentially. Say he was paused in that position rather than walking. So
just for the people that aren't watching and are only listening, when an animal has one leg forward, the other opposite leg will generally be back, and they will create a V between their legs.
Yeah.
So that V, you kind of want to go up straight from the point of that V in between their legs. Yep.
And then if you're looking
for height wise, you want to be
lower.
As a rule of thumb, a third the way out. So if you split the width of that body or the height of that body into thirds, you want to be at that lower third.
So in regards to his elbow, would you say that's his elbow joint? Like that's essentially bone where I've got my marker?
Yeah, you can kind of see on his hairline there. Yep. It's down underneath the cursor there. Yep.
Yeah.
So you want to be just above that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for the ease of it, for most people, you want to cut their body in half and then go below, just a couple inches below that half.
So realistically, anywhere from about here to here, you're looking at a pretty good shot.
Yep. And that's like perfect line for that heart lung, like we're talking there. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So we've got 3. You got a nanny, a little young one, and then we've got the old Billy in the back. And really, the young one the kid is right in front of where you'd want to take your shot for the Billy.
Yeah, I would not. I wouldn't take a shot there. The only really shot is back of the lungs, but that's a risky shot. Like I'd pass on that. Wait for a clear shot.
And so, in regards to this nanny here, a shot on her, would you say that she is quartering away enough?
Quartering on
enough. Like that's a good angle, or you want her to be transitioned a little bit more towards you?
Yeah, the fact that her head's turned around and her body sort of goes back. Like I know I've seen it a lot. Americans, nothing against Americans or any Americans listening. I have seen people shooting elk, and they would have a shot angle like that, and they would choose to hit it behind the shoulder, back down the body.
Yeah, I've seen that before.
And go for a lung shot, but you'd be hitting the back of the onside lung, and you'd be going through gut, and
definitely
not a good shot. When they are quartering on at that point, you want to be in front of pretty much on the point of the shoulder or slightly in front of it.
Yeah, so like
down through the chest.
So towards that side of the front shoulder. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. We've got a new. Oh, whoops. Let's see. I think I just stuffed that. Let me grab this guy again. Got a new photo with plenty of goats. This one's. You've got this Billy up the top. Let's have a talk about him.
Yep.
So you've got Billy off to the side. He's kind of slightly quartering.
Yep.
Yeah. But you've got a full view of his shoulder.
Yep. So even when they're slightly quartering on, I tend not to take those shots because you are getting back behind the heart.
Yeah.
Because that bone structure is completely covering the heart at that angle. And it's not enough for you to get in front of the point of that shoulder to get down into his chest and heart that way. So
that would be a no shot.
I wouldn't take that shot. The only shot you really have is sort of back of the lungs.
Yeah. And then so this chick, she's actually same sort of position almost, right? Like you see where her front leg is, it's there.
Yeah, so her front leg's in front, but you can see her body going off her back legs. Her body is it's pretty well side on, and she's just got a head and front turn. So I'd just treat that as a perfect broadside shot. And I'd go straight up from that. Whoops. Yep.
Just made it bigger rather than getting hard to drag it around.
So that shot there, you pretty much want to run up straight up from the middle of that front leg, and once again, about that third the way up the body.
So pull it in a little bit tighter than what you think, even.
Yeah, I'd probably go down slightly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be below that halfway, just in case, like, you kind of aim for deer. I'd probably say aim even like a quarter. If you halve that body and then halve the bottom half again, find the height you want, because that kind of accounts for that animal dropping at any point. Or if you're out slightly and your arrow hits a couple inches higher than you expected, you're collecting those lungs.
Definitely, yeah. All right. This one with lots of goats. Let's zoom in more for these ones. So in regards to shots, you would say that's a non-shot, but that would almost be a
Yeah,
shootable.
because his legs forward,
Yeah,
he's moving that scapula and that bone structure forward and opening up that triangle essentially where behind his pocket there. So that cursor right where you've got it would be my shot. That's where I'd put my mark. That's where his heart would be sitting. In that situation with lots of goats, I wouldn't take a shot because I know that I'll get a pass through and my arrow would probably clean up
definitely get
who
another
knows
one.
how many goats behind it.
100%. Yeah. Here we go. Got some goats front on. And some really in this position, if you had a shot on any of these goats, which one would you be taking? If say no matter about the actual horns as such, but if you were going for a shot just based on ethics, which would be your most ideal one?
Personally, it would kind of be 50-50 between that completely front on one and that black one in the front there.
Yeah.
And that one that's broadside. The broadside shot, you have more room to play with. I guess you have a bigger area of vitals because you're sight on to those lungs.
Yeah.
You have a bigger area where you can make an ethical shot. Whereas front on, I believe front on shots are
so brutal,
very effective.
Yeah.
But you have less room to play in the left-right situation as well as height. So you got to be. I only take front on shots close. Like
definitely
for me, 15 and under, like a 20-meter front on shot is getting out there for a front on shot because that animal, if they're front on, 9 times out of 10 they're looking at you, they're alert, and they will move pretty quick.
Yeah. So if we're taking a shot at that one front on, essentially it's pretty much where that shadow point hits, right? You've got the shadow point.
Yep, but just going off his back legs, he's slightly turned, like he's not dead front on, so you'd be slightly to the left of center.
Yeah, so about there-ish.
Yep, that'd be perfect right there.
Get another little X happening, and then what have I done here? Let's steal this X back. I'm going to put him in and around here for you.
Yep, that's pretty well it. Could be back slightly, the tiniest bit, but yeah, where that is now, or back an inch from that is like top of the heart. That animal will be down in a matter of seconds and will not go far at all.
Big Billy Goat Gruff looking at us. He's an interesting one because we actually don't have view of his legs, but I'd say one leg's here, one leg's here. Essentially, he's pretty much covering his whole vitals in a sense.
Yeah, pretty well. He's kind of at that angle where if you go through sort of the front of his chest, you probably miss across the front of the heart. And then
if you go through his leg,
body is turned enough that you could go just behind that scapula.
Just in back here slightly, but down a little bit.
Yeah, so I'd go back. That would still collect his scapula there, I believe. So about there.
Yeah, okay.
And about halfway up the body. If you're aiming for a lung shot, you kind of want to be halfway up.
So you actually move it up a little bit higher here. More like there-ish.
Yeah. You'd hopefully just slip that arrow in behind the scapula, and then the angle of the exit for that would still collect the middle or back half of that offside lung.
Moving on to the foxes. This is one of the animals I'm most excited to try hunt this year. Fox.
Do you get many foxes up your way?
Dude, I actually saw my very first fox ever on the block that I've been going to for almost 5 years now. I saw one not the other day.
No way.
Yeah, so I haven't targeted him yet, but I will definitely try to go back for him because he actually showed up on a camera. We put a pig trap up and he showed up on the camera in that. Cool. So I'm intrigued to go back and get him, but I'm planning on coming down south. So hopefully I can target one down there as well. Could be sick. For someone like this, you've actually got, so he's walking right now. It's a moving shot. In regards to something like a smaller animal, at what point do you almost disregard the bone structure? Like, is there a point for you where you're like, okay, it's a rabbit, it's fine?
Yeah, apart from the skull. So if you whistle a fox in or call a fox in, they're coming in front on, I would not recommend with a bow and a broad head shooting them between the eyes. because the tip of that broadhead would generally hit the bridge of that, because it's not a flat. They're not impacting a flat surface. It'll hit and run along that bone and kind of like deflect.
Yeah.
I guess. I've seen it in the past. I wouldn't recommend going for a headshot on any animal with a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Because normally if that's the case, you'll hit center of the bridge of the nose, and that broadhead will deflect and then go through the eye socket and won't be center of the body. And like, you probably still will get them and kill them, but
it's a risky one, right?
It's a very risky one. I've seen in the past headshots on a fox, and that fox runs off and
oh my god,
finds a hole somewhere, and
that's a nightmare.
I wouldn't recommend that. But as for the body and their bones and stuff, if you're shooting a bow that's upward of 60 pound, even 50 pound, I believe would probably be enough that you could take a quartering on shot, like we got here with this fox. You would aim right for where you know that heart sits.
Yeah. And
I would not worry about penetration. They're a very soft skinned animal. And the bone that you do hit, most solid broadheads, like if you use like an expandable or something, you may run into an issue. But then again, they've got such a big cutting blade on them that you'll be doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, definitely.
So that one there for slightly quartering on shots like that, you kind of want to aim for the offside elbow. So I'd probably move that back the tiniest bit.
Yeah, and down a smidge.
Yeah, like, not too long. Foxes, because foxes are such a small animal, like you can pretty well. Yeah. Yep. That's where I put it, just below half.
Yeah.
So then you don't risk hitting too low, or you just come at the bottom of it. And foxes, especially when you call them in, a lot of times you'll get the shot you will get is really close. And most people that are shooting 70, 80 pound, their top pin's normally like a 20-meter pin. And when you get to that close of a distance, the arrow doesn't have enough time to reach the arc or that arrow flight height of your sight fairly well. So if you're 5 meters and under, you kind of got to take into account that arrow is coming out of the bow below your sight, and you will hit below where your pin is sitting.
There you go. Front on shot.
Nice looking fox.
It is beautiful, right? This is front on shot, one sitting down.
Yep. Right between his front legs.
Pretty much. Oh,
I'll put it right there.
Yeah.
I'll put it right there because he's sitting.
It's going to curve it all around. Yeah,
that's going to be coming out, sort of out through his lungs, through the top of his back because of the angle of his back. You wouldn't want to go too high because then you'd risk sort of just going through the neck, which you probably would still collect the jugular and stuff. But where you've got that X right there, in between his legs, that would be a perfect hard shot.
Little guy running on in. Not actually, he's paused, but similar sort of shot, right? He's pretty much front on.
You pulled him up it.
Yeah, exactly.
You called him in, you pulled him up. He's looking for where the feed is.
Given that he is actually standing in this position, you'd go slightly higher than what we've done there. Right?
I would go slightly higher.
Even higher. Yeah.
You're probably going to be shooting slightly down on him as well.
Oh, yeah, true.
You're standing in front of a tree, whistling. So, you just want to make sure you get it under that chin for most of those front on shots if you're slightly shooting down on them. So, where you got that there was pretty good.
Yeah. I think this is one of the last of our foxes. Not a lie.
Oh, got another one.
We've got another. So given that he's coming in, he's quartering on, so you want to get in front of this shoulder. And if you're aiming for the back of his elbow, if you want to aim for that, is that what you're saying essentially? Whenever you're shooting?
Yep. So the more that they turn front on, the further it'll be back.
Okay.
Since he's turned more forward and you got a fair gap between his front legs, you want to sort of aim for the front point of his shoulder on the onside.
There.
Yeah.
A bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Right there, just to the left of his cheek there. So that will come through and that will exit probably halfway down his body on his offside, halfway back down through the bridge. That'll collect the heart and the lung as that's exiting there.
Here we go. Last fox, then we got some cats. Have you shot many cats?
I've shot a few. haven't shot one in a lot of years. But yeah, when I was younger, growing up, out west there and stuff, yeah, I've shot my fair share of cats. We've actually got a few on our place at the moment that show up on cameras like once in a blue moon. There's a tabby one and a black one, and they've been living there for quite a while. And I'm assuming they will be breeding up. So I'll be surprised if I can't get the drop on a feral cat here soon.
Pretty interesting. You hear about how many there are in the wild. Like I think there's more wild cats than there are foxes.
Yeah,
But yet you don't see them anywhere near as much. I mean, obviously, place dependent. I've definitely got cats on my block. Never seen them. I've heard them of the night time. They come into the house block and they try to get the farm cats going. But I've never actually seen one out in the wild.
Yeah, and they're hard to call in. Like foxes, you can call them in, and they're kind of a run their prey down type of animal. Like they hear like you're whistling, or they hear like a rabbit or a bird or something that's injured. They're running in and grabbing that thing before any other fox in that area can grab it. And whereas cats, well, like leopards, tigers, they stalk their prey, and they sort of slink through the grass. They sort of sneak around and will pounce on it when they're close. So yeah, it's really hard to see them. I have in the past whistled in cats.
Yep.
They'll pop their head up and you won't see them coming and be like, oh, he's right there. Like they'll just sneak in on you when you're not expecting it.
Yeah, wow. I've heard that the whistles will only work in particular if there's like a lot of rabbits around as well, like your Tenterfield ones.
Yep. So your different calls will vary. So we don't really have many rabbits on our place, but we have a lot of hares. And their calls are a lot different. So yeah, we use it like a hare caller, which is more like a squawking type of sound. Could play off as like an injured cockatoo or something like that as well. So that's sort of the call that's most effective for our area.
Yeah. So this guy, he's pretty much broadside, but he's got his front foot back, so he's blocking his vitals once again. He'd once again almost go for that elbow on the opposite side.
Yeah, I would use that V between his legs, go straight up from that.
Yeah,
and it right there, or anywhere from there to an inch or two further back.
Oh
yeah. You're collecting those lungs. Kind of want to keep it just below that halfway up the body there.
Yeah. Cat, she's actually not giving us a shot at all.
No, that's head's completely covering the chest.
Yeah. This is like a typical broadside perch cat that's almost in that position. I'd almost say like that's a very typical position you'd see a cat in, right? Almost if it's aware, ready to take off. But once again, you're almost saying with this style animal, this smaller animal, you're good just to be able to take a shot, right? Being poundage dependent, but yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So you can go there. He has got his elbow tucked a little like back a fair way down his body, as you can see. So his heart will still be sitting forward in his chest. So yeah, where you had it there was pretty well right. You can kind of see the dip in his back. Where his scapula would be sort of coming up as he's hunched up on his spine like that. So you sort of go from, that dip in his back there, which is pretty much the perfect line that you've got.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Interesting. These ones are hard quartering away shot. Like almost to the extent that you pretty much don't have a shot, right?
Yeah. Unless you
the
only shot you really have there would be like a Texas heart shot.
I was going to say, taking the whole thing.
Not recommend taking.
No. This one's a bit of a better one in regards to quartering away.
Yep.
But given that the front foot is so far forward, you've almost got, so you think about with a regular quartering away shot, you want to go back, but given that the front foot's so far forward, you can see like the heart and everything's going to be in this sort of position, right?
Yeah. So I'd come up from the back of that onside leg.
Yep.
As line. You can kind of see his crease there. Yep.
Yeah. In through there somewhere.
Yeah, because his chest is turned around, so you'd have a little bit of room to play because angling away, you've got a lot of vitals to collect and a lot of organs and stuff that you're going through on a quartering shot. So, yeah, where you have it there is probably the furthest forward I would go, and then you have to come back
there more.
Yeah, I would put that. That's where I would probably put my pin.
Yeah. We got a red stag, a ridiculous red stag, and he's laying down. Would you take a shot on a laying stag in this sort of situation?
No. Red stags, they have their bone. If you hit bone,
it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, even like with an 80+ pound setup, 530 to 600 grain arrow, if you hit major bone, you will get pedo, but not enough to get through to that other side. So
Yeah.
that one, yeah, I probably just wouldn't. You
Wait
probably
for
could
him.
slip it where you put, like in front, and
Yeah. Hope for the
kind of
best.
go for a
Jesus.
quartering on
I
through the
mean, because he's
chest.
actually tucked down the way, you'd actually want to go a little bit lower, even, I
Yeah,
reckon.
you'd want to go low. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, you do run a very high risk of
That's a
collecting that leg bone.
very, very hard shot if you're going to do it. Here we go. Red stag, pretty much standing. He's slightly quartering on. But once again, you'd go slightly in front of the shoulder, but pin it to that front side shoulder a bit more, right?
Yeah, yeah, just because he's
Ish.
angled there.
Yeah, even potentially a little bit lower, where you got your
Yeah, but you can
hairline
kind of see
split.
that color line. So where
Yeah,
where the mane of his neck comes down to a V, which is a couple inches above where you've got that there.
yeah,
That's kind of the limit for your height. If you go any further above that, you're kind of just through the neck. Like you might be lucky to collect the major arteries and jugular and stuff, but
mm-hmm.
thinking of where that arrow is going through and going to be exiting and what vitals it's collecting on the way, the height that you've got that there is pretty well perfect.
Yeah. Roaring stag, pretty much quartering on. Yeah, I mean, once again, that's a pretty darn tough shot to take.
Yeah, so you can kind of even see there, like where you've got that cursor right there is where you would want to hit, but that would be the front point of his shoulder, and that would be a
Yeah,
dense bone joint, so you wouldn't risk it on that one.
no, this is a good one. Little hind, red hind. She's slightly quartering away, but pretty much broadside. You can. And this is really cool. Like in an animal like this, they pretty much show you the V, right? With
Yeah,
like the armpit sort of hole and everything you've got there. You've got your muscle structure in this position. So it's a pretty blurry photo, but it does give a lot of like you can pretty much say like in this point in here.
yeah. So that'd be the front of the triangle. So
Big
you
front,
that's a
but
pretty good shot.
given that
Angle.
she's slightly angled though, you'd want to go back a bit, right?
Yeah, so I'd go straight up from that offside leg as my line.
Okay, so
Um,
even further back.
yeah, probably right there. Yep,
Yeah.
because he's slightly angled. This is a very good angle for people that are new to bow hunting because it opens up
So much.
that onside a lot, and that's probably the biggest kill zone you would have on an angle.
Definitely. You got a big old red stag, and he's sitting. Oh, that's a slightly interesting shot, isn't it? Because he's broadside with his legs stacked, but then he's got his tail tucked back and around him a little bit.
Yeah, so I'd just look at the front half of his body there. The fact that his two legs are silhouetted behind each other would pretty much put his chest cavity completely broadside to you. So for
Yeah,
that
okay.
shot, I would, exactly that line. So the back half of his front leg, go straight up from that, which is the exact line you've got, and then I'd
Yep.
drop it down
Yeah.
slightly.
About
Yeah, so you're gonna
there-ish.
want a third or just below a third, just
He'd
for
go
height.
even lower than that. Because I kind
You
of think about
could,
the elbow joint, like it's
yeah, his
literally.
elbow would be down, slightly
No, it's
down. So
actually
you,
probably more like there, isn't it? The elbow joint.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So that height you've got there is perfect, top of the heart. Like if you hit him there, he's going
It's
nowhere.
gone. Yeah.
Gives you a bit of room to play for height as well.
So slightly, he's pretty much broadside, but he's got one leg. He's walking, which makes it hard for the shot position. But he's actually pretty much he's framing that whole front leg is almost framing his whole vital system. If you look at that, you could still
Yeah,
get
so that
definitely
dark
lung shot him.
section that you're circling there, yep, that would be
Yeah,
his triangle. So that shot, he is slightly quartering on the way
yeah.
he's got his body turned. I would go
Probably
use
back a little bit.
the front of his onside leg there, go to the front side of that leg and straight up.
More like up in here somewhere.
Yeah, sort of the front half of that triangle is where you'd want to try and get that arrow in there.
Kind of in there a bit more, maybe a little lower.
Yeah, a bit lower, below that half, and then
Yeah,
and then you got a bit of room to play. Like if you hit an inch further forward, you'd probably still be behind that bone.
yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, isn't it? Like just how much of that slight angle can make such a difference.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's really hard. You got to like kind of make sure on the angle and get a good idea of how that animal has its body situated when you are going to make a shot and pick your point.
Mm-hmm. What do you reckon about that? Go.
Yep, that would, yeah, that's pretty well top of the heart. Like using, you can see that V between his front legs.
Yeah.
Pretty much straight up from that V, sort of essentially in the crease in that pocket. He's opening that up.
Yeah.
And low air poundage bow. That's a really good shot because you're getting peno very easily, especially on like boars and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You're in that crease. There's kind of forward of that crease, like over the triangle and up over the lungs, their fighting pad gets pretty thick and dense. So if you can slip it in their pocket at a slightly quartering away, you're not really hitting any major fighting pad or anything. So you'll find it a lot easier to get good penetration.
100. So you got a broadside stag, but he's walking, so he's marching. He's got his front foot forward. Now, this is actually an interesting question that I had. You'd actually sent me a video of a pig, and you'd shot it on the move. And obviously, it's something you're pretty aware of. And you had told me you were pretty much aiming a foot in front of him, and you end up hitting pretty much in like the direct pocket where you're meant to. Like, it was an incredible shot for the placement.
Yeah, so he was half on the trot. He was getting out of there. I just kind of knew
definitely following
the speed of the bow. Yeah,
yeah.
you have to put a bit more lead on than what you would expect. And yeah, if anyone's ever shot rifles a lot, even at like a close range, you don't have to put much because the speed of a bullet is so like good. Exponential compared to an arrow. Definitely. But even on like a moving or running shot with a rifle at a little bit of a distance, you got to like put a foot or two like lead on them most times to hit him in the shoulder. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend taking moving shots on animals.
Definitely not. No. I mean, I was going to say, you're pretty darn experienced, right? You've been bow hunting your whole life. I think you told me you've done, as a number, like well over, did you say over 700 animals you reckon you've taken? Probably?
Yeah, they'd be getting up there. Yeah, it's a lot. It's probably even more than that now. And that's, just all with the bow. So,
with the bow, yeah. So, I mean, you've definitely got a lot of years on a lot of us.
Yeah, and even then, I still find myself in situations where I will tell myself, no, I have no shot, and I know my capabilities, and I think that's something that I use.
So I was going to say, that's something that everyone needs to be able to figure out for themselves, right? Like you need to know your limitations. You need to have your comfortable boundaries that you're going to stick within when you're bow hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, so where you've got that there is pretty well perfect. You can kind of, because he's got his leg tucked forward, you can see that elbow, the back of his elbow there, kind of highlighted a bit. Yep, so that's pretty much the back of his elbow. So you kind of want to just hit the offside leg, I guess, essentially. Use that for your line. And then, about that third. Yeah, so anyway, from where you had it, sort of from the back of that leg even, just above his elbow, from there through to where you have it, in that whole triangle area on that broad side.
Yeah.
You want to be in that zone there.
Your front on stag. Well aware of you. He's 14 meters just to be within your shot.
Yep.
But we've got some brush, and he's actually, so if you look at where his body position is, he's not completely front on. He's kind of tucking off to the back. He's almost quartering on in a sense.
Yeah.
You'd actually want to bring it right over into this side.
Yeah, you want to be slightly, because you kind of want to envision that. It's kind of hard with animals because they're a 3D object that is not transparent. So you kind of want to imagine that there's a heart or an orange or tennis ball or whatever you want to imagine sits central to the width of their body.
Yeah.
And it sits pretty well in between their front legs, down the bottom of their chest.
Yeah.
So no matter the angle that you turn this animal at, you should essentially have a fair idea of being able to envision where that heart's sitting within that animal. For people starting out, I would definitely recommend analyzing the animal, and if it's like a spotted pig or a coloured goat, using a tuft of hair or a spot or a mark as your reference to aim for once you've got that angle identified, just for ease of knowing where to aim. But I'm to the point where I don't really pay attention to those sorts of things when I'm aiming, because I've got such a good idea, and I've dissected and butchered up enough animals that I've shot in the past and analysed my own shots that I've taken, knowing where that heart sits and where those vitals are. I can just sort of take that animal's body as a whole and envision where that heart's sitting, and then make a call on what bone structure's in the way from there as to whether I'd take that shot.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just knowing the anatomy is so important, right?
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, especially people that are new getting into it. If you shoot an animal, you make a good shot, in the process of when you're taking meat for that animal, or if it's like a ranked old pig or a fox or something like that, even just taking the time to get an idea of that bone structure. Brad Smith's really good for doing this. I know they go through shot placement up there at Cougar Adventures extensively, and they take time to, when an animal's been taken, show that and use it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And in years past, like me growing up, going through it, like every now and again, like even just as a refresh, I'd make a shot on an animal, and that animal would go down in like 10 meters type of thing. And I'd be like, yep, I'll whip his shoulder off, open up that rib cage, see where my arrow went, exactly what it hit, knowing the angle and where those vitals are sitting, just to really have a good understanding of all that.
Definitely. Yeah, I think it's definitely a valuable lesson, right? Like if they're making sure what they're doing every single time up at Cougar Adventures, it's for a big reason. It's definitely going to work. Yeah. I mean, this front on shot in regards to where he is, you actually can't see his legs. You can't kind of see where the V kind of ends within his hair, but you can actually see, like, it's almost like down here, right? Like his V point. So his chest, like the bottom of his chest, is probably going to almost be down underneath the picture here. Actually, you can see how low it is. It'd be down in there almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
So really,
if that was a clear shot and there wasn't like a bit of brush or something in front of him, it would be down below the V of that mane. And then with him slightly quartering, it would be slightly off center, so it angles through.
Yeah, so almost down here.
So that'd be your line, and then you'd probably want to, probably go down a bit lower, picture type thing. Yeah.
I think this is one of our last stags that we've got, and we've got a few other animals that we go into. We get into the piggies next. So he's pretty much straight broadside, right? Like, a little bit of a. But once again, so I liked what you said before we even started. Like if you think about your front leg, you pin it completely in half and go all the way up, and then just above your elbow joint, and that's going to be a pretty decent position.
So you use that for your line, and then make sure you're below that half, below so about half. A third of the body.
Yeah.
That's in the middle of the triangle. A lot of people would just put that on the crease. So if you go back an inch or two on that animal's body, that would still be an excellent kill shot. Like that's back of the heart and lungs. If you go too far behind that crease into the sort of that lighter section and shade, even there you'd probably still hit the bottom of the lungs. Below that you'd sort of be behind the heart, and then you move into gut and stuff. So that's probably the limit for the height and back. Any further back or below that, you wouldn't want to go there. But essentially from that entire triangle, from the front point of his shoulder, so anywhere from where you've got that, between those two, I would say that back one is sort of on your back limit. You want to sort of be in front of that on that crease, or slightly forward where you've got that other point there.
Definitely. Moving on to some pigs. And this one's quartering on. And the hard thing with pigs and quartering on shots in particular, or frontal shots in general, is that they've got no neck, right? Like it's pretty much head, body. It makes it tough.
So the angle that he's at here, this shot, I've actually taken this shot on a hell of a lot of good balls in the past. As long as you're clearing that cheekbone or that chin, a lot of times I've taken this shot, I've been crouched down in long grass and the ball's picked up a bit of movement, and especially if they're rutting, they'll see that, and if you're low to the ground, they'll come over and kind of suss you out and see what you are. So they'll be coming towards you, and they'll normally have their head down, and then they'll lift it up to try and get a better look, and they'll be dropping their head sort of up and down. And if you can get under that chin when their head is up, down sort of the side of their cheek there, right where you've got that, that's basically the reverse of the perfect quartering away shot. So that'll exit few ribs back behind the crease on the other side.
Exit
That's
point's gonna be
taking out the
ideal.
top of the heart and lungs.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, if you're standing, so you think about pig, if you're standing on this shot, you're actually going to need to come up higher for your shot, because if you're standing and you're well above it,
If you're
you're going to need to
shooting
shoot
down on
down
him,
and out. Yeah.
if you're shooting slightly down on him, you want to kind of go
Probably.
halves.
Yeah.
You kind of need to be able to envision where the exit of that will be, and
Definitely.
you don't want it to be too low.
No. What's this? He's almost got like his it almost looks like a computer speaker out in the wild on a game camera. That's hilarious. It's interesting. So another pig, he's quartering away. He's got his back leg. No, sorry, his front leg is back, so he's kind of covering his vitals with that. But if you were to go off your rule, once again, you'd almost punch it in here, right?
Yep. So that would be as forward as you'd want to go, and then because of the angle that he is at, you can come back. Yeah, so use the back of that front leg.
Mm-hmm. As your reference.
Yeah, and that's like perfect. That's pretty good height there. With quartering away shots, I've found over the years, you're better off being slightly further back than too far forward. Because if they're quartering away and you're too far forward, you'll collect the onside lung, but you'll exit sort of forward in front of that offside lung. So you better, if you're slightly further back on a quartering away shot, it will be better because you'll collect a lot more vitals and organs through their body.
Yeah, okay. All right. We'll go with this one at the back. Oh, what did I just do? Not what I wanted to, that's for sure.
This one here with his mud being on him, a pretty good reference for like height. You want to kind of be on that mud line. If you imagine them, there's a little bit for his crease there where there's no mud, but yeah. So that's pretty well. He's practically broadside, maybe slightly quartering on, but his front legs are split, so he's creating that V. So you want to use the top of that V as your line. Yep.
Nah.
Yep. And yeah, that's pretty good for height. Just below that sort of halfway point. He's pretty small pig, so.
Yeah. I actually want to move this photo along because that would be a good one to take a shot on as well, right?
Yeah. Yep. Perfectly broadside. You can see being a bit thin in hair, you can really see that crease.
So
yeah, you kind of want to be
He's also got his front foot slightly forward again, so you can almost go that V almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would that be too far in, you reckon?
That's not too far forward. Like the front, that still would be hard and a lot of vitals.
Yeah.
But I'll probably go any further forward.
No, definitely. So from there back to about
back to about there. Kind of, that's a really good shot there. I'd probably move it forward like the tiniest little bit, and that would be my ultimate perfect. Yeah, that's top of the heart.
Yeah.
Guaranteed for that one there.
That's incredible. Once again, if you're just listening, you can definitely jump across the YouTube channel because it's going to be up there. So it would make this a lot better viewing. It's good fun for us, that's for sure. Hopefully we're explaining enough. If you are just listening, you can kind of get your grasp around it. So we've got a mob of pigs. We've got one who's pretty much, he's kind of front, he's quartering on, and we've got one that's broadside to us and one that's hidden, like the other two are hidden behind those ones pretty much. So say that this is your big ball that you're going for, and like you said, he's almost looking up at you. If you can clear that chin, which I don't think you've actually got a shot on here.
So I would be, so if you go slightly lower and then to the left, a whisker.
In like there.
Right there. Yep, that would be my shot on that pig. If you can slip it down under there, you can. But this shot is risky. And once again, like I'm talking close range, like 10 meters and under. That arrow will get there quicker than they can make any substantial movements. So you'll be getting that in there pretty quick. So that would be the only kill shot on that for that angle with a bow. But
I'm actually so surprised with how quick a pig will move, especially like if they're aware. They duck that string so quickly. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it. A lot of their movement, because they don't have really long legs to be able to drop on or spring on. So pigs, a lot of their movement will be more of like a turning or rolling sort of situation. Drop and roll.
So yeah, that broadside pig right there, you can kind of see like a bit of a V created by his legs there, and you can see his crease. I would normally recommend being just in front of the crease.
Okay, so back just a slight smidge.
Yep. So right there, yeah, on the crease is still a good shot
Mm-hmm.
for broadside, but you just risk getting close to being too far back and missing those important parts.
So I'm gonna hurry us along. Unfortunately, we've got about 8 minutes left. So I think we're at 30 of what have we got? 50. Shit. Oh, I'm running out of time here. Let's jump straight to. So we've done a fair few pigs. This is a good one.
Yeah, that's quartering on enough that you can get that in front of the point of that shoulder, and you pretty much don't have anything there. Like that's going through the neck, and that's fairly well open to the chest cavity from that angle.
Up a bit more.
Yeah. So I go slightly up because his neck's down. I go slightly up, and then back to the left a whisker. But that's you want to angle through, pretty much come out. Yeah. So that would essentially come out. Yeah, just on the crease or behind it on that offside there.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to scroll through a few pigs here.
Yep.
Here we go. We've got some chittle.
That's a pretty good one there. You can kind of see where his elbow is. If you use that bottom line, those white dots. Yep. So that's pretty well his elbow. You want to be, because he's kind of turned slightly, you kind of want to use that elbow as your line.
Yep.
And then you want to be just above that elbow. And Chittle being a very switched on, high reflex type of deer, you want to be a quarter. I would recommend aiming a quarter. Yeah, you just want to clear that elbow for where you're aiming. So that then if that animal reacts, you have a good foot and a half, and then to drop, and you'll still collect the lungs. But if he does not move, you're above that elbow in the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would you take it?
I personally wouldn't. No, he's pretty big.
Wouldn't.
I wouldn't risk a shot like that.
Yeah, exactly. If you had to,
if you had to, I mean, I believe that
even
myself,
lower,
my bow, I would get the penetration if I hit the front point of that shoulder. And I've taken this shot on fallow where I had literally just aimed for the dense bone of the point of that shoulder, cracked them right on it, and I've still got a pass through and an exit wound. But yeah, that heart is sitting where that
given that he's
where that cross is right there. It's kind of it's slightly to the right.
Yeah.
But it's guaranteed bone on that shot. So, yeah, I definitely wouldn't take that shot.
Sitting deer. No shot there. Not really, right?
Not really. Like he's quartering a bit and you could get it down his neck. But when animals are laying down, even pigs, when they're bedded as well, if they're sort of in a prone position, so not, I'm not saying like laying on their side and stuff like that. If they're in a prone position or sitting, laying upright like that, you've got to get pretty well to that ground line. Like that ground line is basically, it sort of pushes up all their vitals, and the bottom of their chest is sitting on that dirt. So when you're talking about your height of a third the way up, it's pretty low.
Yeah, it's literally going to be right in there. Right.
Like,
that's crazy.
Essentially, yeah, it's pretty low.
A prominent Adam's apple on this one, and a brush-like penile sheath. This is a fellow buck. Yeah, he's slightly courting away, but pretty much completely broadside.
Yeah, so that really exposes that pocket and that soft spot in behind the elbow there. So yeah, right where you've got that, and then you've probably got an inch behind that to play with. But yeah, you want to stay below. You can kind of see that line.
What would be the highest shot you reckon would be all right on this guy?
Yeah, halfway up, but that's assuming that he won't move at all.
Definitely,
yeah. So you want to be below that bit of a line that you can see in the colour.
I was going to say, he's pretty much got a perfect little line for you to be able to
so you want to be below that, sort of in that real light part of the pocket.
Yeah.
I go slightly down and essentially in that real highlighted spot right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect heart shot for that animal at that angle.
It's beautiful. Chittle stag, but unfortunately, position wise, that's really, you're going to have to wait for him to take a step or two. Yeah,
he's turned enough that majority of his bone structure there is covering all his vitals. So
that's just a cartoon. We won't use that one. This is an interesting shot. Would you take it, or you wait for it?
Yeah, with deer, unless you've like a red stag or a fallow buck, when you're pulling them in and they're kind of preoccupied or they're on the move coming in towards you and you pull them up, they're kind of not really waiting. But when a deer's just feeding and they stand up, head raised in a quartering on position, I wouldn't recommend, like I personally probably wouldn't take that shot. And especially if that angle, there's a lot of bone structure in the way there.
Yeah.
So
I think
I'd probably
that's a
pass.
fair sign to say, like, in general, don't take that shot then. Like, if you wouldn't take it, then I think no
Yeah.
one should really be taking it, right? Like,
Yeah,
I've
you're
literally
not
seen
sure,
your bow like slip through ridiculous sized pigs like butter, like melted butter, just like straight through. So if you're not willing to take a shot like that, like, I don't think anyone should be.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like with all these shot like placements that we are putting on these, like if you're not sure, I know not getting a shot away, and you kind of in times like situations like that, if you don't take a somewhat possible risky shot and that animal wins you, sees you, gets away, runs off or whatever, and you don't have that shot, trust me, and like a lot of other bow hunters will tell you, they would rather have not taken a risky shot and
100%.
that animal get away and live, and you have the potential to find him later down the track and get a
Yeah.
good shot on him, rather than wounding that animal and hitting them bad and not knowing whether the animal's going to die or how long it's going to take,
It's the
or not seeing him
worst
again.
feeling. It
It
really
is the
is.
worst feeling.
It will daunt you. It will haunt you for months.
Yeah, yeah. So unless you're sure and you're confident, and for most people, especially new people getting into it, I would limit yourself to broadside and
Definitely.
quartering away shots up to that sort of 45-degree quartering.
In most situations, if they don't know you're there and you're hanging out with them, eventually they're going to give you a shot. You just sit and wait, and you'll get a shot.
Yeah,
You just
you
be
just got to
patient.
wait. Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to be patient. You got to be disciplined. Know your limits, and yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into bow hunting and make it sort of what it is and how challenging. Like it's a game of inches or even millimeters at some points. So
yeah. So we've got
yeah,
some fallow bucks quartering away. Would that be too far forward?
no,
That would be
I
good.
would, yeah, halfway between that gap in their front legs.
Yeah, which is
I wouldn't go any further forward.
Yeah,
Because he's quartering, you've kind of got from there all the way back to the back of where that line kind of makes a bit of like a triangle. Yep. So there, you kind of got, you can see pretty much in line with that off leg. So I would probably use that off leg as my line, or the front of that off leg, because you're kind of trying to angle through to the point of the offside shoulder to get that heart as it goes through. Yeah, so those two crosses there. So my ultimate perfect shot would be that height right between those two crosses to the front of that offside leg would be the perfect height.
More in line.
And line.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that's where I'd go for that one.
Yeah.
So that would be 100%. That's collecting the heart on the way through.
That's incredible. All right, we're going to do this one as our last one because we're out of time, unfortunately. Our little fawn shot, we didn't want to do this one, but it was the only hard quartering away shot that I could kind of actually find in my quick search that I was doing before this. So, I mean, even that as a shot is not ideal. Look at that.
Yeah, so that is a shot where the only risky part about this shot is you have a narrow window of left and right for this shot.
Yeah.
So you want to you just want to clear that back hip bone that you can see there. You kind of want to essentially hit that offside shoulder or the front of that offside shoulder. So pretty well where you've got that cross there. Maybe it's slightly back. Because you always want to be on quartering away, you want to be slightly further back than too far forward.
So you're aiming for this point on the back shoulder? Is that
offside shoulder, yeah. Because he's turned.
Anywhere within that, though, or are you just wanting...
Okay, so see that split between his front legs? Come straight up from that.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in front of that.
Yeah.
Because if you go in front of that V, you're sort of kind of potentially going in front of the heart, and that's exiting out the chest.
Yeah.
I guess. So you kind of want to hit where that cross is right there, would be hitting the point of that offside shoulder, like the front of that offside leg at that height.
Yeah.
So you pretty much got from there and then back without hitting that hip.
Yeah.
which is a very effective shot because that's going through a lot of the body when you think about it. It's the only risky thing about shots that are that hard quartering is your narrow window for line. You don't have much play left or right. And then also on bigger animals, like I think I mentioned that big 45.5-inch Billy that I shot last year. He was a quartering, or the first shot was hard quartering away pretty much exactly like this. But if you just flip it and he was facing the other way.
Yeah, wow.
The broadhead, so I hit him with the 3-blade, and that broadhead actually hit right there where we're talking. So my line was perfect. I aimed in the right spot. The shot was really close, like 7 or 8 meters. And it actually hit the outside of the rib cage. And because of the angle was so steep on those ribs, it ran down the outside of the rib cage and then buried once it sort of hit that pocket behind the elbow. And that's where it buried sort of in the front of his chest.
Yeah.
And there was a cut, probably 8-inch gash where that broadhead actually run down the outside, just because it was such a steep angle. So in some cases that can potentially happen on those really steep quartering away like that. But like that Billy, I quickly got a second shot into him, but that first shot did bury into his chest cavity and collect a lot of vitals. But yeah, they're kind of the risks you run from a shot angle like that.
Definitely. Well, dude, I'm going to have to cut it there. Unfortunately, I got to jump upstairs real quick and look after my daughter. But I think that was incredibly insightful. And if you guys didn't get to watch, make sure you jump on and watch the YouTube channel, because even some of the positions I was putting in and thinking that would be a good shot, like just to get Liam's extra double check on it and say, oh, just slightly back or just slightly forward. That was actually super insightful, bro. So thank you. Once again, Liam_Bowhunter. That was sick, dude.
So if anyone's got any questions, like if I don't reply, I'm either at work or busy, but I do get back to even like messages sitting in my requests. Like I try to get onto all of them. And yeah, always keen to help people out and help people become sort of better bow hunters, because it's not easy. It is challenging tasks, but we're all very passionate about it. And yeah, so if anyone wants any tips, any feedback, anything like that, happy to help anyone out or have a chat or conversation with anyone. So
appreciate you, bro. You're a good gem for our bow hunting community. That's for sure.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.